All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping straight into one of the absolute most fascinating arenas of human behavior, the psychology of sales and negotiation. If you've ever felt, completely stuck when a conversation suddenly pivots to money, believe me, you are not alone. So today, we're going to unpack the secret mechanics of how people actually make purchasing decisions, and more importantly, how you can take control of those tricky conversations. We'll be breaking down some truly brilliant insights drawn from global sales experiences, taking all this complex psychology and laying it out super clearly for you. Let's get right into it.
So, imagine this. You're in a meeting, you've just nailed your pitch, and the customer looks you dead in the eye and drops those dreaded words, "Your price is too high." What's your very first instinct? Well, if you're like most people, your immediate reflex is to jump straight into defense mode, right? Kind of like a seagull guarding a French fry. You start justifying your value, or honestly worse, you instantly start doing mental math to figure out how much of a discount you can offer just to save the deal. But as you're going to see, that specific reflex is exactly what separates average salespeople from the absolute masters of the craft. To really understand why, we're going to look at negotiations that happened all over the map, literally. From the bustling markets of Delhi to industrial centers in North and Central India, all the way over to corporate boardrooms in Canada and the United States. Now, you might think that with totally different accents, local cultures, industries, and just different ways of doing business, the rules of the game would completely change. But there is a massive lesson hidden in all this travel. While the geography, the currency, and the etiquette change, human psychology remains remarkably the same. Okay, let's really dive into this, because there's a golden rule underpinning everything we're talking about today. Here it is. Customers don't react only to price. They react to their perception of that price. The greatest negotiators on the planet, they don't waste all their energy trying to magically change the actual number on the invoice. Instead, they focus their skills on changing what that number means to the person sitting across from them. Section 1. Reframing the price objection. A lesson from Delhi. When someone hits you with, "Your price is too high," the average defensive comeback is something like, "Yeah, but our quality is better," or "Our service is superior." The very second you do that, you've completely accepted the customer's frame. You're now arguing over a price tag. But a master negotiator? They pause, and they ask a genuinely simple question. Let me understand something. What happens if you choose the cheaper option and it fails during your busiest week? In one single sentence, you haven't defended your price at all. You've completely flipped the conversational frame from a focus on cost to a focus on consequence. And that perfectly leads us to the math of perception. Let's say your product is 10,000 rupees more expensive than the competitors. To a buyer, coughing up an extra 10,000 feels bad. But after you ask that reframing question we just talked about, the customer starts really thinking about the consequences. If that cheaper option fails during their peak week, maybe that failure cost their business 100,000 rupees in lost revenue and pure chaos. Suddenly, the negotiation isn't, "Why should I spend an extra 10,000? No, the negotiation becomes, "Am I actually willing to risk 100,000 just to save 10,000? It's the exact same product, the exact same customer, the exact same price. But the perception? Completely changed. Section 2. Selling outcomes over specifications. Data versus emotion.
If you're selling, say, industrial equipment, you might proudly boast, "Hey, our product has 99.2% reliability. Look, that is perfectly accurate information." You could spend the next 20 minutes rambling on about the materials, the warranty, the capacity, but here is the fatal flaw with that approach. Information educates, sure, but it does not move people. Your competitor has specs too, and let's be real, by tomorrow morning, your prospect is absolutely not going to remember that 99.2% figure. It's just sterile data. But what if you take that sterile data and turn it into a feeling, specifically a panic-free Friday afternoon? Instead of quoting 99.2% reliability, you tell the customer, "One of my current clients used to get incredibly nervous every single Friday afternoon, because if their equipment broke down over the weekend, Monday morning became an absolute nightmare. After they switched to our solution, Friday afternoon just became another calm afternoon." See what just happened there? You took a sterile percentage and completely transformed it into emotional relief. The customer can suddenly picture that Friday. They feel the stress just evaporating. The data supports the sale, absolutely, but it's the emotional outcome that actually gives the data meaning. And that leads us to a really helpful working definition here. Inspiration in sales isn't about, giving some cheesy motivational speech. It's about uncovering what a product's specifications actually mean to a customer's real world.
If downtime is their biggest nightmare, if a broken machine means employees are standing around, managers are yelling, massive orders are delayed, then you aren't selling a machine with a nice warranty. You are selling the prevention of a Monday morning catastrophe. Customers do not buy specifications. They buy what those specifications do for their everyday lives.
Section 3. The hidden cost of cheap. Insights from Central India.
When a client says a competitor's product is 20% cheaper, a master negotiator usually says something like, "Okay, let's put the purchase price aside for just 5 minutes. Walk me through the entire life cycle of this product." Sure, the initial invoice price for product A might look fantastic on day 1. But what happens over 6 months? If it requires replacement twice as often, if their employees have to spend double the time maintaining it, and if it causes minor production halts, that quote-unquote cheaper option is literally bleeding money. The lowest initial invoice price very frequently becomes the absolute most expensive total reality. Once again, notice how you didn't even touch your price? You simply expanded the customer's understanding of what the real cost actually is.
Section 4. Turning spreadsheets into stories. The North American shift.
When you move across the globe, the business etiquette and the language undoubtedly shift. In Canada, a buyer might politely say, "Help me justify this investment." Down in the US, a highly analytical buyer might demand, "What's the ROI?" And back in Delhi, they might just bluntly tell you, "Your price is too high." Now, on the surface, those sound totally different, but fundamentally, underneath it all, they are the exact same sentence. They are all just a psychological plea from the buyer saying, "Please help me feel confident that making this decision won't make me look foolish." So, to build that confidence, we usually rely on spreadsheets. Imagine you deliver this brilliant presentation in North America, packed with ROI calculations and cost comparisons. You proudly highlight a massive benefit. You're going to save them 400 labor hours. You leave the room feeling like a total rock star. But 2 days later, someone asks that customer what you presented, and the customer says, well, there were some numbers, I don't really remember." That is the immense danger of 400. Without a story attached to it, a spreadsheet number simply evaporates from human memory. To fix this, you have to attach a vivid picture to the number. Saving 400 labor hours annually is just a spreadsheet fact. It's easily forgotten. But what if you framed it like this? Right now, your team spends 400 hours a year on this manual process. That's 10 full working weeks. Imagine getting one of your best employees back for almost 2.5 months every single year without having to hire anyone new. Man, that is a vivid human picture. Numbers give you the logical credibility you need, for sure, but the story is what actually provides the memory. You absolutely have to use both.
Section 5. 3 questions before you discount.
So before you ever reach for a discount, force yourself to step through these 3 vital questions. Step 1. What is the comparison? Remember, a price means absolutely nothing in a vacuum. Are they comparing your invoice to a cheaper competitor or to the devastating cost of a total system failure? Step 2. What problem are they actually paying to eliminate? Think back to that 100,000 rupee catastrophe. That is what you're really selling. And step 3. What story makes this memorable? Don't just make something up. Use a real scenario, like getting an employee back for 2.5 months to ensure your value sticks in their mind long after you've packed up and left the room.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most powerful thought of the day. Average negotiators change the price. Great negotiators change the perception of the price. Because if the only thing your prospect remembers when you leave the room is the price tag, then the price has become the entire story. Your job? Give them a better story. By focusing on inspiration over pure information and outcomes over sterile specifications, you aren't just selling, you are literally shaping their reality. So, as you head into your very next big meeting, are you going to be defending your numbers, or will you be shaping their reality? Think about it. Thanks for joining us, and definitely put these tools to work today.